Imagine waking up and finding out your guild is being wiped out by an army of invaders. When he shows up on the map, the guys try to rush him all at once. The funny thing is, nobody could deal more than 1 damage to this dude. The invaders froze in shock, not believing his HP didn't even move. In a matter of seconds, the guy flipped the whole fight, slicing through everyone with an insanely fast attack. The leader locked up trying to understand what was even going on. The ones who survived didn't even have time to blink. Not satisfied with just clearing them out, he used the loot they dropped as bait to pull in even more enemies and wiped the map again like it was nothing. This guy is a one-man army. He alone managed to crush the entire invader squad, leaving everyone speechless, wondering who this monster even is. This is Liu Chan, and to understand his story, we need to go back a little. Before the game launched, the main character was a rich and powerful guy, until a robbery went down, where he got beaten so bad that he ended up paralyzed from the neck down. He basically hit rock bottom and lost his will to live. But his sister Li Yu came home every single day trying to cheer him up in every way possible. She throws herself onto his lap and says she'll take care of her brother until he smiles again. When she tosses him to the floor, Li Yunchen starts to get pretty excited, but then she rests her head on his chest and passes out from exhaustion. One thing you can't deny, she said she'd cheer him up, and she did. Even feeling a little spark of joy, it wasn't enough. That's when a virtual reality game was announced, so insane that it promised to restore movement to the body. Li Yu grabbed whatever money he had left and secured his copy. The good news is, he was going to walk again. The bad news is that he entered the game as a monster, and not even a high-level boss. The dude turned into a weak little werewolf, and to make things worse, a group of girl players spotted him and screamed there was a monster to kill. That's when things went crazy. While getting beat up by the girls, he realized that in the game he could fight back. When the protagonist took down the group and started looting their items, he got hyped and wanted to test something out. He spotted another wolf, punched it straight in the head, and realized monsters drop loot too. Farming both players and monsters, he was already ahead of everyone else. And so the hunting season began, attacking any human that crossed his path, except for this one woman. For some reason he decided to help her, who knows why. He leveled up from weak werewolf to normal, getting a way stronger body and a full inventory of items. But that still wasn't enough, and he went back to rolling over everyone. The dude was grinding the game. A while later, he unlocked the strong werewolf evolution, and had completely broken stats. After hours of farming, he discovers that all that loot could be sold for real money. He was finally going to stop being broke in real life. When he ran into a level 6 boss and crushed it using a club that never breaks, he reached an insane level and earned a status that would take others months to get. Every day that passed, he soloed a different boss and stole their items worth an absolute fortune. The dude got so overpowered that when a group of players attacked him, he was only taking 1 damage. He could literally fall asleep while getting hit. With just 1 punch, he wiped out everyone around him without breaking a sweat. Everyone there had been playing the game and spending money, only to get wiped out by that boss. Still, the boss tells them not to give up. They just need to grow stronger and kill it later. What he really wants to know is how only I Am Savage managed to beat that thing. Back on Li Yu's side, so many notifications came in that his head still hurts. But he's happy, because he now has over 3,500 saved up. He's also getting flooded with messages from people asking him to join guilds or sell them gear. He answers all of them the same way, no friend ads, and if he sells anything, he'll announce it. Then he closes it all and goes back to grinding levels. 8 hours later, he finally reaches level 10 and collects 28 clubs. His monster reputation is up to 38, but his bloodline still hasn't upgraded. Then he notices a new skins tab in the reputation shop and wonders if he can change how he looks. Sadly, the skin available is just for a werewolf. There's also a quest that says killing a bunch of werewolves can earn that bloodline. Li Yun starts wondering if the two can be combined, or if he might even turn into another kind of monster. What he really wants most though is a way to become human again. He opens the martial arts icon and finds a skill called humanization that boosts attack and defense. One option needs him to meditate for a while to gain the stat. The other costs 1,000 recovery points and requires killing wild monsters to take their powers. After spending time cultivating, he finally unlocks mana. With that done, he goes back to listing items and starting more auctions. Meanwhile, the girls are exhausted, since getting to level 7 is taking forever. Then the secretary says, "Only I Am Savage just entered the stream under ID 9527. Ling immediately tells everyone the stream is doing great, and says she's going to give a gift to one lucky viewer. Of course, number 9527 gets picked. Li Yu is stunned, thinking that's way too perfect to be real. But when she sends a friend request to give him the reward, he tells her to pass it to someone else. She says he should just accept it, but he answers that he's not interested. He already asks what she wants instead, hoping to avoid taking it, while she keeps insisting. All she asks for is a picture of him holding the club. Li Yu can only imagine how terrifying that picture would look. Still, she seems kind, and he does want to help a little. So he agrees to take the gift, but not the picture, and she accepts that. After adding him, Ling announces on the stream that only I Am Savage is the first player to reach level 10 and enter the main city. Feeling awkward about taking the reward, MC removes her from his friend list. Still, she did reveal that the road to the main city is open, which means new monsters ahead. So he heads out and reaches the poisonous mist forest. The system alerts him that he has left the beginner zone. He gets excited, but also wonders whether to rush through or fight everything on the way. Then, something grabs his attention. The moment he enters, a swarm of spiders attacks along with a level 9 boss. He chooses to fight the boss himself, and leaves the smaller spiders to his minions. The bad news is that he gets poisoned. At least the damage isn't too bad. 3 minutes later, he clears the whole area. He even gets a white mist bracelet. It's part of a gear set that slowly boosts poison resistance. That matters a lot, because this place is packed with poison, and before he can move on, he's under attack again. 5 minutes later, he's still trapped there. Every time he kills one, more show up, and his minions aren't recovering. Later, back in his room, he says it was a brutal day, and he barely escaped that forest. Then he notices the arm that barely moved before is a little more flexible now. His finger is still stiff, but even that much improvement feels huge. Right then his sister calls and says she can't come home yet. The company team she joined has to adjust to the game, so she has to stay until everyone reaches level 6. Liu tells her not to worry, because he has a surprise waiting for her at home. She asks what it is, but he says she'll find out when she gets back. That leaves him smiling, thinking maybe he'll be fully healed soon. The next day, he's right back to fighting spiders. Nothing has changed. The numbers feel endless, and he still can't push deeper into the forest. One of his minions even dies. Later, 2 more go down, and he has to run while chugging potions just to stay alive. After that, he comes back and kills the spiders that took out his companions. Then he stands outside, grieving for his lost minions. He decides to spend all his reputation on gear and upgrades, so the whole group can return stronger. The next day, they're back in the forest, hunting spiders again. This time, he finally meets the real elite boss. She rushes him before he can even react, but now he's geared up and fully confident. Half an hour later, they finally bring her down. With her dead, he gets 2 more pieces from the set. A level 10 boss definitely didn't disappoint. One drop is the matching gloves, which also raise poison resistance. The other is a necklace, and of course he equips it right away. Now fully geared, he says farming elite monsters just got way easier. The only issue is that the enemies here respawn insanely fast, but since he's stronger now, that actually helps him get even more loot, so he immediately goes right back to farming spiders. After a while, his title grows even longer, and his talent rises to a 19% critical chance. Because he's killed over 1,000 spiders, he can now buy their poison talent. That means every hit now deals 1% extra damage per second for 5 seconds. He upgrades it right away, knowing it'll help against tanky enemies, and spends more reputation to push it to level 3. Now the poison drains 2.5% health instead. The downside is that he now looks weird, half werewolf, half spider. The good part is his movement speed gets much better, but he seriously needs a skin to hide that ridiculous form. Still, it was a productive day, so he logs out again. The people who always bought his gear were disappointed because he didn't list anything today. He just wasn't interested. Li Yun planned to save those poison resist items until players reached that zone. Then he noticed people had already made it to the werewolf boss, so the forest wasn't far off. In-game, a team was fighting that boss when Ling warned everyone to stay alert. She fired them up, saying if they won, they'd become the strongest team on the server. Then her secretary suddenly told her to look over. A huge monster had appeared, shouting that it came to save Zakkus. The group couldn't figure out why its name was so long or how it moved so fast. They quickly started planning, cover each other and keep potions ready. But one guy laughed at the giant name, saying it looked silly and would probably die fast. His attack didn't even do 1 point of damage. The 2 girls then saw it had over 2,000 GP, which meant they stood no chance. Even so, some of the guys stayed hyped, telling everyone not to worry because it was probably just a tank. That confidence vanished the moment one of them got hit in the chest. The spider claw struck for 60 damage and added poison too. Everyone froze. Their friend had 250 GP, and he was gone almost instantly. Li Yu just shouted, asking what they were waiting for. After that, the fight turned into total chaos as people got tossed around. Some still wanted to fight, but the rest had already decided to run. Ling was still there, but Li Yu had no plan to let her get away. He slammed her with a hit for 94 damage. On top of that, the poison kept draining another 60. He was thrilled. He'd just picked up a huge pile of potions. Now that the other players were scared away, he had more time to keep grinding. Back in the city, everyone was talking about that terrifying monster. They couldn't believe the top team on the server got wiped out in minutes. Some players were so shaken they even wanted to quit. People kept urging Ling to message the level 10 player and ask how he beat that thing. She didn't want to, but everyone kept calling her a goddess and begging her. So she got a message from him, asking how to kill Zakkus. Li Yunqing's goal was simple: control the forest, then sell poison resist gear once the zone opened. He told her the boss doesn't show up every time, so they should try again tomorrow. That got her excited, and she thanked him right away. After that, the protagonist went back to farming, planning to kill Zakkus himself too. The next day, he pushed deeper into the forest. No one on the server knew what waited ahead, and the first thing he ran into was a level 10 python. His minions tried to run, so he forced those cowards to fight. He soon noticed only the ones wearing anti-venom gear could stay alive. The problem was the same as before. There were snakes everywhere, and their numbers never seemed to drop. Luckily, those dead players had left behind plenty of potions. 2 hours later, they were worn out, but still battling snakes. After that, he logged off, went home, and slept. The next day he came back and found something strange. His wolves had kept hunting instead of logging out. Because of that, they had all reached level 9. Liu was impressed again. His minions were better than he thought. They were smart enough to rotate out and recover health on their own. That was perfect, since they could keep leveling while he slept. The best part was that he now had enough reputation to buy the snake bloodline. That bloodline gave him another poison effect that got stronger when the target moved. He maxed it right away, making it deal 2.5% HP per second, and rise with every step. At this point, his character was turning into a real monster. He knew he was getting uglier, but power mattered more. Now a single hit dealt 93 damage, and stacked both poisons. One lasted 5 seconds, while the other stayed for a full minute and hurt more the more the enemy moved. He told the wolves they were going to hunt through the whole forest together, so Liu and the werewolves kept farming. At last they made it out. Or more like they found something much worse. It was the mistress of the round spiders, Evelynshire, a level 12 boss known as the Queen of Poison. Liu knew that meant a guaranteed gear drop, but beating her would be rough. Even so, he chose to risk it since no other monsters were nearby. She only gave him a small lick at first, then unleashed a rain of webs. MC and all his minions were pinned in place. He broke free without much trouble, but his minions stayed stuck. At least he could still rush her alone. He started piling on damage while stacking poison. Even though his damage per second was higher, she had way more HP. Worse, her attacks slowed both his movement and attack speed. His edge was that he could still kite her and let the poison wear her down. Eventually the werewolves broke loose and came back to help, but the moment she turned around, she trapped them all over again. Liu realized her skill cooldown ended right as they returned, leaving him basically solo, so his only option was to chip her down little by little. Half an hour later, he finally brought her down and got a huge pile of loot. There were 2 4-star materials, 1 green equipment piece, and even a blue item recipe. That recipe was for an advanced blue helmet, loaded with stats. The armor gave big defense and several strong effects, and he had no idea how much it could sell for. Once he learned she could drop a blue item, he decided to stay in the forest and farm her again and again. Just half an hour later, she spawned back, much faster than he expected. He went straight after her for more loot. 10 hours went by. Liu was exhausted, but he had collected a huge number of poison sets. Soon players would start suffering in the forest, and that's when he'd cash in. The reputation set there cost 4 million, which was crazy expensive, but also insanely strong. He could already see people in chat panicking, because that area was crushing them. Since no one mentioned the boss, he figured they were still stuck in the first or second section. Then he opened the live stream of that cute girl, to see if he could make some money. She was getting wrecked by spiders, and saying she was about to die again. Sure enough, she ended up back in the city. She said they'd need a lot of anti-poison gear to survive there, but had no clue where to get it. Then she thought of the one person who seemed to know all this game's secrets. She messaged Liu to ask if he had anything for poison resistance. Of course he had plenty. He told her he had a full set, and she was stunned. She asked to buy 1 whole set, and wanted to know how many he had. She was even more shocked when she learned he had multiple full sets for sale. Just to make sure he was serious, she asked if she could buy 3. Liu simply told her to make a trade room and send the password. She still couldn't believe it, but then he put all 3 sets into the trade window, and he got 21,000 gold in return. She equipped the set right away, and said she could easily survive the forest now. Naturally, Liu got flooded with 99 messages from people wanting to buy the same set, so he announced an auction to squeeze out the highest price. To stay anonymous, he bought a female avatar to run it. 10 minutes later, the live auction began. He put on the attractive skin to host the sale, and hopefully earn even more. It was embarrassing, sure, but he was doing it for the money. The first lot was a spider set with the helmet. The bids kept climbing. That first item finally sold for 1,400. Liu was already thrilled, saying he was making a fortune. By the third sale, another set went for 9,800. Everyone was stunned by how many sets he had. Then he announced the next round would be 3 full sets at once. Bidding exploded immediately. The price hit 45,000 yuan, and he asked if anyone wanted to top it. One guy said he loved the seller, and even blew a kiss. In the end, the 3 sets sold for 6,000. He then started another bulk sale. Someone instantly offered 45,000 yuan again. People were shocked that the same bidder was trying to buy everything, so another buyer jumped in with 47,000. Other companies refused to lose, and pushed it to 50,000. Liu just enjoyed the chaos, saying anyone who wanted them could keep raising the price. As the sets ran low, everyone started bidding whatever they could. Then someone shouted 90,000. After that, everyone could only watch as the last 5 sets were sold. Liu said today's auction was amazing, then hinted that after part 3 of the forest, something even scarier was waiting. People asked how anything could be worse than the snakes when no one could even beat them. Then he revealed there was one piece of gear that would decide who could clear that area with ease. That got everyone excited, since they thought the current gear was already the best. That's when he showed the avalanche helmet, which could reduce the attack and movement power of anyone who struck it. With that cursed female skin on, Liu told them to take a good look. Everyone was stunned because its defense was far above any other item. Even Ling, the biggest streamer around, wanted it. He set the opening bid at 15,000 with 2,000 as the minimum raise. The offers started pouring in right away. One person bid 5,000, another went to 7,000, and the last one sold for 8,700. Back home, Li Yu was overjoyed. He'd made more money in one day than he ever thought possible. On top of that, feeling is coming back to his hand, and even his leg feels warm now. The only downside is that more players will start going through the forest, but he did all he could. Back in the game, everyone is geared up and ready to move forward. Now those spiders from earlier aren't a real threat anymore. Even Ling is here, wearing her dangerous gear. People start farming spider drops, then quickly head to the snakes. By 4:50 in the morning, they were still grinding in the forest. Then everyone suddenly stopped. When Ling asked what that thing was, they had finally found Evelyn Shear. From the name alone, the group realized this was the place where that auction item came from. Before anyone could react, she lunged at them and froze the whole guild with a single attack. The next morning, she woke up surprised they actually dared challenge her. Li Yu starts thinking Evelyn Shear's control skills are amazing, so learning them would be a huge help. But when he goes to buy the item that was 1,000 yesterday, it's already 2,000 today. He buys it anyway, before it gets even more expensive. Right away, he uses the item on the boss. It gives him her skill, but he needs webbing to use it. After that, he calls his friends to hunt her down. 10 minutes later, he's stuck with a choice. He just left the forest, and now he can go either to the main city or Beast Mountain. Because of his current identity, he decides the mountain is safer. Still, one thing surprises him. The area is way bigger than he expected. He sends his creatures out to scout while he explores too. As he looks around, he finds several different monster races. The issue is that he wants a new recruit, and none of them seem worth taking. Then he reaches Chaotic Funeral Hill. The system warns him not to ask about the Headless One, and says this is a level 20 zone. And now that he's level 11, his beginner protection is gone. The moment Li Yu gets close, a hand bursts out of the ground, and a new monster appears. An extremely dangerous level 24 enemy. He knows right away he can't beat it head on. The monster instantly summons skeleton magic to attack. Li Yu takes heavy damage and tries to run. Still, an enemy with area damage is exactly the kind of creature he wants. Before he can get away, the whole group gets boxed in. He retreats while the others take the hits for him. Once he gets some space, he tells his minions to stay back while he tries to pull one away. One option is using the spider skill he just got to lure one in. He just thinks it's absurd that it comes out of his stomach. 10 minutes later, the creature accepts the contract, but its level drops to 11. He notices it doesn't just have area attacks, it can lower enemy defense too. 15 minutes later, he captures another one, bringing his squad up to 5. He also gets a quest to drive out a creature called the King and take its territory. He knows the best place would be somewhere most players can't reach. As soon as he spots the mountain peak, he figures that's the spot. But when he gets there, he finds a Tiger King. Even so, with his full group, he's sure they can win. That confidence vanishes after 2 hits that each deal over 300 damage. He quickly realizes he can't tank this alone and calls his minions in. So the fight starts, but the boss is loaded with poison. It takes him 40 minutes to bring it down. Then the system gives him 2 choices: kill it and get normal rewards, or force it out and claim the territory for himself. If he does that, the creature will just respawn somewhere else. Since he wants land of his own, he chooses to drive it out. That gives him the right to settle there, and a new mission to clear the whole peak and name it after himself. He also earns a brave title that adds 20 health. Li Yu is thrilled by the feeling of becoming king over part of the game. After that, they go back to hunting for more levels, and of course he wants the region's drops so he can make even more money. At last he reaches level 12. That unlocks the secret realm of Moon Valley. It's basically a dungeon packed with bosses and loot. Li Yu wonders if it's really worth going in. In the end, he leaves his creatures farming while he checks the place out himself. The system tells him he can pray for an item before entering, and maybe the gods will give it to him. It also says the first player to enter gets 5 times the rewards, and he can offer up one item to get another of the same type. So if he gives a weapon, he'll get weapons back. If he gives armor, he'll get armor. But Li Yu has a much better plan. He offers the only 4-star material he got from the boss. His prayer works, and he gains access to the secret realm. Once inside, he's shocked by how huge it is. Then a global notice goes out. Everyone learns he entered the dungeon and earned the title Moon Pioneer. The notice also says the dungeon stays open from 10:45 p.m. until morning. People can't believe he's progressing this much faster than everyone else. Of course our guy isn't thrilled that the whole world knows. Still, the title gives him 10 extra strength, so it's not all bad. A moment later, green moon wolves start attacking him, and he happily charges in since he's here for materials. Because he's far stronger than a normal level 12 player, dealing with them is easy, and since he's the first one here, every kill gives him 5 times the normal rewards. So the biggest money chaser around goes all in on farming. An hour later, he's already leveled up and gathered more than 1,000 materials. The list is massive, but the big point is that his crit talent is already at 23. Now he's looking for an ancient heart and an ancient fragment. Sadly, boss time has already come, so he hopes it drops what he needs. He heads for the boss, sees it only has 6,000 health, and thinks it's weak. He crushes it with ease and gets more than 35 star fragments. Everyone then learns he cleared the realm in just 5 minutes. He trades the fragments for prestige items, and upgrades the item that boosts his legion size. Now he can control 10 subordinates and even appoint one as leader. At this rate, hunting in this forest is going to become impossible with all the creatures he's building up. Before logging out, he sets a special mission to get the item he still needs. Back in his room, he's overjoyed about all the money he's making. It hardly feels real. And now the upper half of his body is almost completely normal. Maybe soon he'll even be able to stand again. He's already thinking about using his earnings to buy a house. He checks out a decent apartment that's actually within his budget. Meanwhile, at Country C's National Security Building, someone from the Special Operations Group wonders if it's weird to gather a whole team just to play a game. But Lean says both the government and the military are getting involved, so they need to know why. He believes something much bigger is going on, and asks Lean how their progress is coming. Lean explains they're trying hard but they're still stuck in the poison forest. The man then gives him info about someone important. They need to turn into an ally. The next day, even in his wheelchair, Liu goes to buy the apartment. A woman greets him and he says he wants a medium-sized place. What he doesn't realize is that some men behind him are watching and saying it's definitely him. Liu had already warned them to stay ready. At the same time, the secretary starts showing Liu the apartments. She tells him not to waste even a second and buy right away. But even the translator points out that if someone says not to hesitate, that's exactly when you should. Still, the protagonist is making so much money that buying a small gift for his sister doesn't seem like a big deal. Then a pink-haired girl shows up and warns him not to buy it because the place has tons of problems. She tells everyone not to buy from them because the apartments have serious quality issues. That makes people pause, since buying a home like this costs years of savings. The woman calls security to throw the girl out, but she keeps shouting that she has proof. She also warns that once you pay, you won't get your money back. The guards walk over and tell each other to drag her out without hurting her too much. One of them bumps into Liu and tells the cripple to move. Then he grabs the girl by the shoulder and says she's coming with them. She refuses and begs someone to help. Liu just sits there, unable to act, while people around them keep filming, saying this will make a great video. The girl yells at them to stop recording and help her because she's trying to protect them. Then MC grabs the man's arm and tells him to stop picking on her. The guard answers with a kick and tells him to shut up. He is shocked that he somehow has enough strength to block it. Another guy rushes in with a baton, but Liu nails him with an elbow too. Only here could a guy in a wheelchair block batons and beat people up without even standing. The man who got elbowed tells the others to knock him out of the chair, and one charges from behind to shove him. But suddenly someone grabs the chair. With glowing eyes, the men from earlier step in and tell him they've got this. Then they start beating down the security guards. Not long after, every one of them is on the floor. They tell Liu not to worry, they'll handle the rest. Lean thinks the whole thing feels strange. Then the boss of the place shows up, demanding to know who dares cause trouble for the Yang group. He comes down and sees Lean calling someone to report what's happening. The blonde man laughs, saying nobody in this city would dare go against them. Lean warned him to leave in 10 minutes tops. The man laughed and said they only needed one. Then the thugs rushed in, even joking about not breaking any bones. One of them jumped in like a movie scene and swung at Lin. Lin moved aside and answered with a kick. He followed it up by catching another attacker midair and driving a fist into his ribs. Before the boss could react, his men were already flying backward. Lin looked at the boss and asked what he thought now. The man quickly offered compensation, but Lin still slammed a punch into his stomach to make the lesson stick. He said they had offended a young master, so the price would be huge. The crowd started guessing that the guy in the wheelchair had to be from some rich, powerful family, but the pink-haired girl pointed out that made no sense if he came here to buy an apartment. Lin used the rumor anyway, saying the young master had just returned to the family. Liu played along, saying he only wanted a simple life and an ordinary home. 3 minutes later, the police showed up, and the man selling those bad apartments was done for. He left shaken, scared of the protagonist's family background. A guard said the matter was settled, and Lin thanked him. After that, Lin turned to Liu and said they needed somewhere quiet to talk. MC started to suspect this had something to do with the game, and hoped the favor wouldn't be too much. Even the pink-haired girl came over to thank him, calling what he did amazing, but he brushed it off. Lin then told one of his men to reward the girl, while he spoke with the protagonist. At a restaurant, MC asked who they really were. The man said they couldn't share that, but they knew someone named Only I Am Savage, and needed his help. Liu asked why he should help them. Liu explained that hiding inside the game might work, but bank records don't stay hidden. That was when he understood how they found him. Liu said his team had 500 people trapped in Snake Swamp, and needed help. If Liu agreed, he could take a card and use it to buy a house from one of the biggest real estate groups. The protagonist said he couldn't take something that big for such a small favor. Lian told him he still didn't understand how massive this game was, and much bigger things were coming. MC agreed, saying he hated owing people. Lian only asked that when he bought the house, he do it under the Kinshin group's name so they could get 30% off. He said fine, but asked why they were pouring so much into a game. Lian admitted he wasn't fully sure, but whole countries, even the military, were involved, so this was far bigger than it looked. As Liu got up to leave, he told them to come to the forest between 7 and 7:30. When Lian asked for the exact day, the protagonist said they'd understand once they got there. He didn't want to get mixed up with others, but since people could track him down, having a safe place mattered. That's why he accepted. At 7:30, the whole company team was stuck at the forest entrance. Items were so hard to get that everyone was badly geared. Even so, Lian told them to move. They had to start leveling. Then they froze in shock. No one understood what they were seeing. Monsters all across the forest were already lying dead. Lian wondered if one person had really done all this alone. Leo had already come through the area and even taken down the boss. 20 minutes later, they found the boss corpse too, and couldn't believe someone was soloing all of this. 2 days later, the story moves to the mountain area. As usual, MC was grinding wolves while his creatures controlled the zone. This was a 3-star monster, and it honestly looked like the game just changed a skeleton's color and called it new. It dropped a long flower pattern skirt that boosted movement speed. Liu was stunned. It took 2 whole days for this item to finally drop, so he instantly put it up for auction to make as much money as he could. The most dangerous thing in this game might be checking the market just to see what's for sale. The skirt was for female characters only, and it could control a target for 30 seconds. A girl tried the preview, loved how it looked and even imagined it smelled like flowers, so she had to have it. The problem was, the second she bid, a ton of others pushed the price up. Girls with rich boyfriends were begging them to buy it. One e-girl even posted that she'd give the buyer anything they wanted. With only 5 seconds left, the auction had already hit 65,000. In the final moments, the bids shot up even more. She was stunned by how many people wanted this skirt. In the end, it was sold to a girl named Dancing Fairy for 13,000. Liu didn't expect people to fight over it that hard, but for him, that was perfect. On top of that, he had been farming the bloodline of nature creatures in this area. With that new bloodline, he could see up to 400 meters away, and a tiny plant started growing from his head. After that, he entered a mist-covered area he had avoided before. This was the road to Lost Eden, a place where people got lost easily and monsters tricked them. Then the whole server got a notice. Only I Am Savage had activated the Lost Eden mission. This was a server-wide mission that would double everyone's experience for 10 hours. The recommended level was 20, but people still wanted in, since the whole server could join. Even more, all servers would merge for the event. The biggest guilds quickly started forming teams to stay alive. Liu was annoyed that once again, everyone got notified about what he was doing, and right in front of him was a pack of heavily mutated werewolves. These were level 15 monsters, came in groups, and were far stronger than normal. Then he remembered this mission, buffed all wild creatures. And since he and his wolves were part of that race, that meant his summons also got boosted, and entered a super mutation state. Even Liu's own stats were doubled for the event. Since the mission hadn't fully started yet, he went to check Ling's livestream. Players were gathering outside the main city. This time, there were even more people than on day 1. The real problem was that players under level 10 wouldn't have protection. Still, one person wasn't fighting for a spot with everyone else. Of course it was Liu, already near the forest. The only bad part was that the little plant on his head made him look ridiculous. Then he headed out and started farming the event monsters. Naturally, his inventory filled up fast. He ran into a mini-boss and got curious about its drop. It gave him level 5 talent fragments, a pile of event points, and of course every seller's favorite, 3 green items. Among them were a claw and a ring that raised critical chance. Since the event was active, Liu equipped everything instead of selling it. With those items and his bloodline, his crit rate jumped way up. When he checked the market, prices had gone crazy because everyone was suddenly gearing up for the event. He was making about 2,000 every 5 minutes from sales, then rushing back out for more loot. By now, players were moving through the forest, hunting monsters. They noticed mist thickening in one direction and wondered if that was the path. The server then announced that only I Am Savage had entered a deeper area, which was why the mist got worse. People called him insane for charging into a server event alone, and figured he'd die soon. They wanted to use that chance to find him and start farming there too. That was when Liu found one of the pillars that had to be destroyed. He switched to Zombie Girl, and ordered her to attack. She jumped straight at the pillar, but right then, a level 20 boss showed up. Just 2 hits from it dealt more than 2,500 damage. Liu told his minions to stay back because they'd get one shot. His poison was ticking for 600 damage, but the boss had 100,000 GP. Things had gone smoothly lately, so he'd built up a stockpile of items, and now it was time to burn through them. He started throwing out all his stored webs and using potions on his creatures. Even then, his summons were taking brutal damage and almost dying. An hour went by, and the boss was still standing while Liu's supplies were almost gone. Outside, other players were still struggling just to deal with the wolves. Ling and her friend noticed that the longer they stayed in the mist, the weaker they got. Everyone knew they had to figure something out fast, but then only I Am Savage earned the title first succeeded for destroying the pillar in that area. While Liu rested, the system started counting his rewards. It had cost him nearly everything he'd saved up, but he trusted the payoff. He could choose a skill to summon a creature like that boss, or take a pet, a tiny wolf cub that would become something surprising when it grew up. Liu figured that since he already had a controlled area, raising a partner that stayed by his side might be the better pick, and he chose the wolf cub. He lifted it up like a king and checked its stats. As expected, it was super weak and basically had nothing. The event had 8 pillars total, so 7 were still left. Then he sent his wolves in to attack again. At the same time, the other players were still trying to organize against the wolves. They were finally starting to beat the lunar monsters, but when only I Am Savage activated another pillar, the mist grew even thicker again. Everyone realized he was moving way too fast for them to catch. Then a giant portal opened for all players, and they were about to be regrouped. Even the Dynasty Guild members were getting ready to enter the event, but they figured farming weak mobs was a waste, and chose to rush the boss instead. Then a notice popped up. Only I Am Savage had already destroyed the second pillar, leaving 6. That sent them into a panic, and they swore they had to catch that bastard. By now, Liu had picked up a tiny bird too. He was really building a pet collection. The bad part was that he'd run out of potions and the shop wasn't selling any. Then he heard players yelling that a werewolf was close. Others warned everyone to stay quiet and not draw its attention. What threw them off was the boss's giant over-the-top name. Then, Liu remembered the easiest way to get more potions, so he sent his whole army to wipe out the players. The players were hopeless. Even his summons alone were enough to crush them. Their leader was still trying to organize everyone, when an attack came out of nowhere and nailed him. People were getting destroyed, and started calling the event boss unbeatable. Now that beginner death protection was gone, dying also meant dropping your items. Liu had his creatures grab everything, especially the potions. The only thing bothering him was that other players were getting closer. Meanwhile, in the south, players were fighting one of the bosses. He chose not to join in. They'd need over an hour to bring it down, and he started checking live streams to see what was happening in the other areas. On her stream, Li Yunxing said that boss would take too long, so she was heading to the other regions. The southern boss looked like it might be the first one to fall. Up north, there was a 4-armed orc, and in the east, a horned monster. Now Liu knew which bosses he could kill fast before anyone got in his way. He called his group and started another sweep. The moment he got there, he used the spider web trap. You'd think it was for the boss, but no, he went after the players again. They were confused about the creature coming toward them. Of course, it gave them no chance, and wiped them all out. 8 minutes went by. He'd killed everyone near the crab boss, so he could steal the kill. Since the players had already lowered its health, he finished it in 5 minutes. In the west, another group was dealing with a different boss, and of course, someone showed up, wiped them out and stole that kill too. An hour later, a little lion cub was already standing by him. It looked like every boss gave him another pet, and now he had a full little lineup. Then the system congratulated him for collecting all the cubs. That unlocked a limited quest that only appears under those conditions. He had to sacrifice some creatures to pick an even stronger one. When he saw the choices, he was stunned. Something this good even existed. In the end, he picked Ninhaf, the black dragon of despair. A second later, he was teleported into the sky, and the creatures below began to howl around the pillars. That's when he understood the quest sacrifice. He had to kill those creatures. The problem was figuring out how to defeat the thing he wanted to summon. What actually happened was that the 4 creatures would help him fight the boss. This played right into Li Yun's strength managing several creatures at once, something he was already good at. Then Ninhav dropped to the ground and instantly blasted everyone with fire. That special move hit for 20,000 damage. Li Yu thanked the boss for the free help, and hurried his group to safety. He wrapped up the dragon's legs so it couldn't fly and used that attack again, then sent the quest beasts in. Their damage wasn't great, so this was going to take time, but he believed he could pull it off. An hour later, in another part of the event, the guilds were fighting because some of them wanted all the loot for themselves. Orders went out not to cheat, since everyone had agreed to share, but the dynasty members had already moved ahead to grab whatever was left. They destroyed one of the few pillars Li Yu hadn't touched. Then the server announced the event was over. Next would come the secret dungeon, followed by the devil experience. But people were furious at Dynasty for breaking the deal and taking the boss for themselves. And just like that, everyone got teleported back. Most of them were miserable because they barely got anything from the event. So the crowd marched toward Dynasty, demanding they give back what they took. Their leader had no idea what kind of hidden quest this was, since nobody could log out until that person finished it. Meanwhile, Liu was still battling the dragon inside. Outside, things had turned into total chaos, with players fighting everywhere. Nearby players noticed others trying to steal the divine beasts and wondered if they should jump in. Soon even more people joined the fight. At that point, everyone wanted to kill the guild members holding the item and take it themselves. Meanwhile, Liu cleared a legendary quest and got dragon blood, which triggered a hidden mission called Divine Blood of the Demonic Seed. Seriously, that's a lot of fancy names. Why mix divine and demonic? He had to gather 4 of the strongest creatures in the game, and the dragon was already one of them. On top of that, he also needed the 4 strongest evil creatures. Then he had to clear several dungeons, and only after that would he earn divine blood and demonic blood. Liu was stunned. This was obviously going to be hard and take forever. But the Lost Eden mission was finally complete. He got kicked out of the hidden area and came back to everyone brawling. He couldn't tell what had made everything go this crazy. Once people saw him, they recognized him as that boss with the huge name. But Liu had no reason to stick around. He ran for his own territory, where his creatures gave him the edge. On the way though, he heard someone shouting for the Prince of Dynasty. The protagonist could only wonder if they forgot whose land this was. At the same time, Ling was attacking that guy and telling him to go to hell. Too bad for them. Li Yu's wolves joined in and started tearing everyone apart, including the leader, who died almost instantly. After that, MC took the only things they had left. Now he understood the Eden event was really one giant PvP battle over these creatures, and the only target left was one of the few beasts he still hadn't claimed. He took off running, saying that if that was how it worked, he'd monopolize the whole thing. Ling and her ally were chasing down a player who was trying to escape when the final boss showed up and smashed him in the back, dropping him on the spot. A second later, everyone was dead, and Li Yu had picked up all the loot. That activated the Evil Beast quest. Just like before, he had to choose a creature and enter its realm to conquer it. He went in right away, sure he could clear it now that he knew how these quests worked. 2 hours later, he was completely worn out and ready to log off and sleep. Back home, he knew he'd made over $1 million, and he wanted to surprise his sister, who almost never came home. Then he checked his phone and saw 16 missed calls from her. He called back at once and asked if something was wrong. She said she just needed to complain. Dynasty Guild wasn't letting her teen level up. Li Yu said he wished he could help. She told him not to stress about it and just get some rest. For now, he kept quiet about himself so no one would connect them and put her in danger. The next day, that rascal was already walking again. That helmet really does heal fast. He'd reached level 14 and figured 3 more levels would have him fully back to normal. To him, this game felt almost magical, but he knew he still had to be careful. Once he logged in, he immediately sent everyone out to farm and level. He wanted to make life miserable for Dynasty Guild, especially to help his sister. So he contacted Ling's guild and asked them to help track Dynasty down. Ling agreed, only asking that Li Yu sell him some good gear later. 5 minutes later, he was already crushing the whole guild. The only issue was that he wanted to get closer to his sister, and for that he needed a human form. Then he remembered that every time he kills 1,000 creatures, a matching skin appears in the shop, so maybe killing enough humans would unlock one for them too. From that point on, the guild's life became pure hell. Even 10 hours later, they still couldn't leave the city because he kept killing them. Then he called his sister and asked how things were going. She said it had been rough because those people were still bothering her. So he told her to send over her nickname. He knew a super strong friend who could help. She asked where he'd even met this so-called master. He told her not to worry about that part, and just know the guy was insanely strong. She finally agreed, and he promised her big brother would take care of it. Keeping his identity hidden, he added his sister in-game. Her nickname was the one who loves Big Brother the most. That was all the proof he needed. It was definitely her. He introduced himself as a friend of Li Yu, and asked what trouble she was dealing with. Even her profile picture showed that crazy little sister still obsessed with her brother. She explained that Dynasty Guild was controlling a quest tied to an NPC they needed. The protagonist already knew the monster involved, and where that boss spawned. He told her he'd come find her soon, but first he had something else to finish. Then he rushed off to slaughter the entire guild. At that spot, the Dynasty members were busy killing the boss. They were stunned when someone suddenly charged in like a madman. Li Yu flew past all of them and went straight to finish his quest. The boss never had a chance, and all it dropped were a few potions. Right then, he got an email with a video, and opened it right away. It was from his sister, so he watched to see what her game character looked like. She stayed pretty calm and told him the Dynasty players were already dead, so he didn't need to worry. But she had just walked into a trap. A girl in purple told her that if she wanted to finish the quest, she had to kneel and beg. Before she could answer, the woman lashed her with a whip and demanded to know where the brother behind that nickname was. Right then, Lu Chen finished the skin quest and bought the new form. At last, he had a mostly normal look. He was thrilled. Now he looked handsome and finally passed for a human. Then he changed his nickname to Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. His sister messaged that she was stressed and planned to log off for a while. Lu Chen decided to head to Beginner's City and settle things himself, only taking off some gear first so he wouldn't scare anyone. His sister removed her helmet, still boiling with anger. Her friend told her to relax, since their boss would be back soon to get revenge. But Lu Yi didn't want everyone at the company dragged into this, especially if Dynasty started killing them too. Meanwhile, our boy was in a low-level zone when a weird goblin came up to him. He was about to kill it when several players ran over. Before he could react, the group rushed in and finished it first. That was when he realized one of the girls was Hualio from the real estate office. Her friend in blue picked up a drop and said she was going to sell it. Then Hualio noticed him and asked if he'd gotten separated from his guild. He told her he wasn't in one. He played alone. The others laughed, saying that was a wild way to play. Still, he used the chance to head back toward the sea with them, acting like a normal adventurer. But the city gate was packed. He hadn't expected the beginner area to be this busy, and near the entrance he spotted a ranking board. It listed the top players there, and they got daily rewards. Hualio said the player in first place, Taj, was a strong fighter who had spent a ton of money. Li Yu realized this contest mattered, and thought joining it could be fun. One guy quickly told him not to bother, saying only one player could win it solo. When MC asked who, the answer came right away. It was I am Savage. Hualio instantly asked if he was Savage, since his name sounded like a solo hunter, and he wasn't with any team. Caught off guard, he quickly denied it. Her friend told everyone to stop talking and move. The girl in blue was Lengmyo, and she had quit acting to start a guild in the game. Our boy could only think that it made sense. She was seriously beautiful. The beginner city was packed, and he was impressed by how huge it was. Then someone slammed into him and told him to move. The group kept going, and one of them turned back to tell Li Yuncheng to watch where he was going. Nearby, people were talking about 3 masters trying the immortal tower again. He figured that sounded like a good way to kill time while his sister was offline. So he went to the tower, and people wondered why someone with such lousy gear would even try. They laughed right at him, saying he wouldn't last 20 seconds. But he walked up and calmly said he wanted to enter the Immortal Tower challenge. The others brushed him off as a lunatic and focused on the test for the 3 top players. His group was surprised, and the actress wanted to see what he could do. Out of the 4 who entered, 3 cleared instantly, but Li Yunchen kept his own result hidden. Funlunyo looked a little disappointed that he wouldn't share. Lengmyo just told her to watch the other 3 and learn something. The white-haired player was fired up, saying this time he'd beat his old record. People outside praised him, saying he usually finished in under 15 seconds. 2 minutes went by. Everyone was stunned that the beginner was still inside. Lengmyo couldn't understand why his time kept climbing. He had already lasted 3 minutes and 11 seconds. The white-haired guy tried to start the next run, but the game wouldn't let him in. Inside, our boy was mowing down moonwolves. Each one dropped 100 copper, so he saw it as the perfect way to earn more money. After 4 minutes on the first floor, the system forced him up to the next level. He was annoyed and didn't even notice a level 11 boss right beside him, but he crushed it easily, and it dropped 200 copper. 4 minutes later, he got pushed to the next floor again. Of course, he planned to milk this money heaven for all it was worth. Outside, people started getting nervous because he had stayed on the 3rd floor so long. The girls couldn't believe he was actually this strong. Another 2 minutes and 33 seconds passed, and the other challengers began to fall. One after another, they were eliminated. The gray-haired player figured he'd have to stop and rest or he'd die in there too. But he did manage to clear the 3rd floor. On the 4th though, some plants beat him down and he knew that was his limit. The moment he came out, people praised him, saying it was obvious why he was number 1. A friend beside him added that reaching the 4th floor first was impressive. Then he noticed the crowd seemed way more focused on someone else. Everyone was yelling because the timer was still going up, and the anonymous player had already spent 56 seconds on the 4th floor. Li Yuncheng was having a great time since every monster there dropped 400 copper. He stayed on the 4th floor for 4 minutes before the system shoved him to the next one. Outside, the girls were amazed, and Lang Yu knew people would lose their minds once they realized it, and they did. The crowd went crazy when they saw someone had reached the 5th floor, and many started wondering if this was only AM Savage. But when they checked Lingji's livestream, only AM Savage was there, saying he might try that tower someday. He clearly did that on purpose, so no one would suspect him. He also decided to stop at the 5th floor, since going higher would draw too much attention. The money was good enough, so it was time to leave. As soon as he came out, he froze. A huge crowd had gathered around him. One person from the group said it was insane that the anonymous player had made it to the 5th floor and begged him to share his secret techniques. But the former number 1 looked at his trash gear and demanded to know how he cheated. The crowd agreed. There was no way someone with items that bad should get that far. But Lucham only said he didn't owe anyone an explanation, then warned the guy that one territory was no longer his. After that, he walked off and left the idiot speechless. He went to the clerk, who told him to enter a guild name. He only wanted the reward and had no plan to start a guild. But then he figured it might not be a bad idea, though he'd need 4 people. That reminded him the group from earlier had talked about making a guild with Ling Mu, so he invited them and said they could leave later. He only needed them to claim the tower reward. Hualue said she got it, though it was a shame she couldn't help with something that hard. He told her that was fine, he just wanted the guild rewards. Lengmyo, though, said that as guildmates she would help him, so he went to register, which cost 50 silver coins. The girls were shocked he had that much money, but he just earned it in the tower. And just like that, he created a guild called Crazy Wave. Naturally, Lengmyo stepped closer and said he seemed a little weak, but she could at least help take some damage. Ruthless as ever, he told her he didn't need that. What he really wanted to know was why so many people were staring. What he was doing now was the guild challenge, not the solo one, and everyone wondered why he was entering by himself. Soon, Crazy Wave posted 11 seconds on the 1st floor. Olo was nervous, but Lengmyo was sure our boy could handle it. When he cleared the 1st floor, nobody could believe it. Back at his sister's company, her friend mentioned that someone was smashing records in the tower. His sister asked if it was Icham Savage, but the answer was no, just an anonymous player. She wondered who it could be when the boss came in and said they were going to deal with the people harassing her. The group got fired up, saying the Ara Guild had a bunch of arrogant players and needed to be taught a lesson. Her friend simply thanked them. Meanwhile, our boy kept clearing every part of the guild challenge. He was beating it solo and had already reached the 3rd floor. Time kept passing, and even as day turned to night, people were still waiting outside. When he finally came out, the crowd was still there cheering for him. Lengmyo suggested they go check the place where they could set up the guild base, but our boy said he didn't have time and was heading back out to farm. His friend, though, was pumped. He was now an elder in the strongest guild around. The strangest part was that this top guild only had 4 members, and they were in it. Liu said that since the leader didn't care much, they should run the guild themselves and use the fame he had built. Lenya wasn't fully sure and said they should ask him first, so they sent their friend to talk to our boy, who only wanted to get back to farming. The guy explained they wanted to manage the guild and handle the rest, but Liu barely cared and told them to do whatever they wanted. With that, the guy was ecstatic because it was a huge chance. Meanwhile, he was more worried about his sister. Then the focus shifts to his sister's guild, confronting that girl with the whip. Their blonde leader stepped forward and told the woman to move aside or face them. She just laughed and asked who they thought they were. The leader demanded to know why she was targeting someone from his guild. She said she didn't like the girl's nickname or her face, so she beat her up. Calling that nonsense, the leader told everyone to attack. But a crowd of guys obsessed with her jumped in to protect her. Worse, she was the wife of Depth Dynasty's guild leader. Liu asked what they should do, and the leader told her to stay calm. Then he turned to the dynasty leader and tried to settle things peacefully. The man just called them trash and said he wasn't scared. The leader said this didn't need to happen, but the other guy warned that none of them would clear the mission. The whip girl smirked and said they'd be allowed through only if they all knelt and kissed her feet. No one agreed to that. So the dynasty leader stepped forward and said they'd settle it another way. He went straight for the captain, saying that was the fastest way. After that, Lucian's group started getting crushed. The protagonist realized they weren't much stronger than the others if they still couldn't finish these missions. She told the leader to run, but he refused. This was his team, and he wouldn't abandon them. Then a gust of wind swept through. The enemy leader mocked their teamwork, saying it wouldn't save them. He walked up to Lucian and said she'd be spared if she knelt. She shot back, "Only in your dreams." He tried to hit her, and she barely blocked it. Not long after, everyone showed up in the respawn area. Their whole team had been wiped, and they all lost some items. The leader had even gone to ask another guild for help. Lucian noticed a few messages and opened them. It was MC saying he was coming, but she replied that it was insane. The whole Depth Dynasty guild was there. He answered that it was fine, and that nothing would change. That only confused her more. Did he not get what she meant? She tried explaining again, but he only said you never know what might happen. Then her leader returned and said the other guild masters wouldn't stand against Depth Dynasty. Leo said that was fine. For now she'd just go grind monsters and level up. She knew those people wouldn't camp that boss forever, so she gave up on the mission for now. Then she told the others she wouldn't trouble them anymore and logged out. Everyone felt bad because they wanted to help, but there was nothing they could do. Then a masked player walked up. Standing behind the dynasty group, he asked if they were the ones who killed the girl who cared so much about her brother. The whip girl laughed and asked if he was that brother, and he asked if they really planned to die over her. Lucian told them to apologize before it was too late. Of course they just laughed. He was alone. Right then he arrived, and told him not to interfere because it wasn't worth it. He told her not to worry, it would be easy. A bunch of them burst out laughing, saying he was a joke. The guy with the pompadour said he'd take him out in one hit, and the leader told him not to kill him too fast. Liu kept trying to stop him from getting involved. Before he could answer, the guy leaped at him. The protagonist casually swung his hammer aside and smashed the attacker's face. The guy hit the ground instantly with 0 health. That was when the others realized this wouldn't be easy. The purple-haired girl asked what that was, and the leader claimed it had to be some kind of bug. Liu told all of them to kneel and apologize. The leader refused to back down and ordered his whole guild to attack. So the entire group rushed MC at once, but every swing of his hammer dealt 1,900 damage, killing them on the spot. He barely had to move and half the guild was already down. The rest were stunned that someone could hit for nearly 2,000 damage, and some started thinking about running. But the moment one guy turned around, Liu was already behind him and he dropped dead. Seeing that, the captain used his own members as shields and ran. People recognized him as the one who had wrecked the imported players and said Dynasty was finished. The leader collapsed and begged for mercy. Liu answered with a hard smack to the back of his head. Then he faced the whip girl and told her to apologize, or her guild would never have peace. She instantly started slamming her head into the ground, swearing she'd never do it again. The protagonist said that wasn't enough. She needed a beating to learn her lesson. He handed MC an axe and told her to use it until she felt better. At that point, his friend said she knew a super strong player and begged to be introduced. She turned to him and asked who he really was. He only said to tell her he was her brother's friend. She tried to give him the item that woman had left for her, but he said it was too valuable and told her to keep it. He also said that weapon wouldn't help him anyway, so giving it away would be a waste. Then he promised that if anyone messed with her again, he would handle it. After that, he left, and her friend said she had nothing to worry about anymore. Liu returned to his own area. He had bought some human pills there and wondered when things would finally get better. Then it was time to level again, so he called everyone over. The monsters on the mountain weren't enough anymore, and he wanted a dungeon to farm instead. He noticed a strong Korean guild from another server was already clearing Tiger Cavern. Soon after, an announcement said the Three Saints Guild was challenging everyone on the China server to compete there too. Liu saw it as the perfect chance, not just for a dungeon run, but for extra rewards too. A friend told Ling about the challenge, and she said those guys had a lot of nerve calling out the whole server. Still, the video showed their members were strong and worked well together. The real issue was that no one on their server had even heard of this cavern before, so they might already be behind. What they didn't know was that Liu was already inside, cutting through monsters. The place was actually pretty good, and it even dropped green gear. With his new agility boots, he could attack much faster, so he tore through the cavern, killing everything in his path. Before long, he had reached the boss. Meanwhile, Ling was talking about the powerful item that Guild had gotten. To her, their whole server was getting embarrassed, and she wanted to know where Liu was. Inside the dungeon, the protagonist was already killing another boss. One of them was a level 19 saber-toothed Tiger King. Even better, blue-grade items had started to drop. He figured out that this boss was a hidden one, that only appeared if he killed the others fast enough. At the same time, the other guild members were still struggling against that monster. Li Yunxing said they had already failed 5 times, though they were getting closer. 3 minutes later, the boss was finally about to go down. The Korean guild members started celebrating. With all those new items, they'd only gotten stronger, which made things worse for Liu's server. People kept asking why MC wasn't doing anything, and whether their side should even accept the challenge. Meanwhile, he was already fighting yet another boss inside. This one dropped 2 blue items. One was a cape that boosted movement speed and dodge at night. The stats were so good that he put it on right away. Now the only thing he really wanted was better pants, since he was still wearing beginner gear. Meanwhile, the Korean players got ready to challenge the dungeon again. 12 minutes later, Liu found another boss. One hit turned him into a block of ice. With the protagonist frozen in place, the monster moved in to finish him. Its next strike broke the ice and dealt damage. Luckily, he had plenty of potions and enough health to keep going, so he smashed the boss in the head again. This time it dropped a sword, a cloak, and a mantle. Together, they made an ice set that gave him the frozen scream skill. He still didn't get the pants, but he got something even better. He became the first player to beat every boss, and earned the title Tiger Hunter. That title raised his stats by 10. The system asked if he wanted his name shown on the ranking, and he chose no. So the announcement listed him as anonymous. Since he had to wait 30 minutes before entering again, he decided to do something else for now. But the second he came out, the place was packed. People recognized him as the anonymous tower player, and were shocked to see him wearing blue gear. He didn't want to deal with anyone, so he ran off. The others said to forget about him, and focus on the challenge. When he got there, he checked the ranking, and learned it didn't update server-wide, only at the entrance. Everyone knew the Three Saints Guild had taken 46 minutes and was still on the final boss. They finally cleared it in 47 minutes. People were furious that another server was acting so cocky. Then word spread that first place actually belonged to an anonymous player. Naturally, everyone wanted to know who he was. Some said it had to be fake since there was no video. The blonde girl who shared the news knew the anonymous player would come back in 30 minutes. Li Yun grabbed her friend and said they had to see this guy. When Liu returned, everyone stared at his blue gear. Li Yunxing thanked him and said he had protected their server's pride, but MC didn't waste words. He just told them to move. The crowd obediently stepped aside and opened a path for him. Li Yun wanted to avoid attention, but he still needed pants, so he had no choice but to keep farming. Everyone waited to see what time he'd get next. He went right back into the dungeon and moved much faster now that he knew the route. Li Yunxing was sure they could hold first place, but her friend warned that other guilds would try to beat the record. Soon enough, another guild cleared it too. This time in 39 minutes. Li Yunxing didn't care at all. He rushed through the dungeon and quickly found the hidden final boss. While everyone else chased records, he only wanted one thing: better pants. At last, the cursed gear dropped. This run also gave him something even better: a few purple-grade materials. The system asked to log the new record, but he ignored it. What mattered more was the pants, which could burn enemies, and that purple drop wasn't material after all. It was a two-handed sword. Its special effect let him chain combo attacks. The weapon was insanely good. By then, 40 minutes had gone by, so everyone assumed he hadn't beaten the record. What they didn't know was the rankings didn't include hidden bosses. His actual clear time was 38 minutes. A streamer got hyped and called him incredible. When Lu Chen came out, his new gear gave him a much fiercer look. What surprised him was the even bigger crowd outside. The moment he appeared, people started cheering and praising how cool he looked. Li Yunxing stayed close, saying she wanted to see his sword. Lu Chen casually told them it was just a big sword. Then he tossed it up, and everyone was stunned when they saw its stats. After that, he started to leave, saying he'd be back in half an hour to break the record again. That made Li Yunxing even more determined to wait for him. He asked why she didn't use that time to go level up instead. Meanwhile, Li Yunxing went right back in and started clearing monsters again. This time, his run dropped to 31 minutes. As usual, he kept his name hidden so players on other servers wouldn't know who he was. He still wanted more hidden bosses, but even he knew that was asking too much. Outside, the girls were still excited that he'd broken another record. Then, 40 minutes later, he came out after only 10 minutes, and Li Yunxing blurted out, "Had he died?" Everyone else thought he must have messed up and gotten eliminated, but Li Yunxing checked the rankings, since he normally didn't fail like that, and she froze. Li Yunxing had cleared it in 9 minutes and 32 seconds. The Korean players couldn't believe it. Everyone knew that record was basically impossible to beat. The only person not excited was he, because he still wanted more secret bosses. He walked off disappointed, leaving everyone confused about why he looked unhappy. Then he noticed it was late and decided it was time to sell his loot. But right then, a new notice popped up. Double EXP for the next 24 hours. He chose to sell the weaker gear first, though the level 15 blue equipment was harder to price. So he decided to wait until tomorrow, when more players reached that level and saw what it was worth. On top of that, plenty of people needed the materials he'd collected. The moment he listed a stack of 7, it sold instantly. He didn't expect them to move that fast, so he started putting everything up for sale. In just a few minutes, he made another 500,000 coins. After seeing how much money was coming in, he changed his plan. So he headed back into the dungeon and started farming monsters again. The Tiger Cavern really was the perfect spot. Then he got a call. It was the man who had helped him at the brokerage. He said they'd pay double, but Li Yunchen had to sell only to them. He also warned that the protagonist's identity might have leaked and asked if he needed a safe place. MC knew that with this much money involved, both he and his sister could be in danger, so he asked for somewhere to hide, and Lin agreed. After taking off his helmet, the man beside Lin said that even if Li Yunchen was strong, they'd be in trouble once the servers merged. Lin agreed. The kid was their best hope, and they'd have to count on him no matter what. The next morning, our boy woke up and saw he'd already earned 2.34 million from sales. At the same time, the Korean group was gathering. Their plan was simple: block him Chen from entering the Tiger Dungeon by camping the entrance. They carefully set up roles, including what the summoners would do. The group was confident. No matter how strong he was, they had numbers. Then they made an announcement and called the rest of the server to join them. A lot of people agreed, since they didn't like one player hogging everything. Others said no one that strong should stay hidden, so his identity had to be exposed. With that, guild after guild agreed to take part. Meanwhile, Li Yunchen was farming in another area and was already worn out. He knew people were waiting for him at the cavern, so there was no reason to go. Instead, he let his creatures farm in the forest while he rested nearby. Back at the cavern, everyone kept waiting, but the boy never showed. Their leader smugly said the plan had worked, since Li Yunchen wasn't leveling there anymore. Meanwhile, players from the Korean server started causing trouble all over the place. Li Yuncheng said it was happening everywhere, and now nobody could farm in peace. A moment later, someone nearly struck her from behind. Or rather, they did hit her, and she realized she couldn't farm either. The server leader had even brought 400,000 players to help. Back at home, Ling wondered why Li Yunchen still wasn't helping anyone. The truth was, he had been asleep, and had only just woken up. Then he noticed a flood of system messages. That's when he learned his whole server was under attack. Right after that, his sister called. He asked what happened, and she said players from another server had beaten her too, so she couldn't farm. She wanted to use the double EXP event, but there was nowhere safe left. Li Yunchen said he'd speak to a friend, fix the situation, and get her some gear too, but she cut him off, saying it was hopeless. The moment she respawned, they killed her again, and she couldn't even move away. The protagonist Chen told her to send her exact location, and he'd dispatch a friend. Then he swore those bastards would pay. The attackers reported to their leader that someone was coming, but he stayed confident. It was our boys' guild, led by the 3 close friends who had helped him before. Still, they quickly realized they didn't have much chance either, but Ninhyeov refused to give up. She was sure our boy would come, and then he did. He arrived and said he'd handle this himself. The second people saw someone coming, the whole area stirred. Their leader was already shaking, saying the anonymous player had shown up. He ordered the whole guild to attack, sure that numbers alone would crush him. But what happened next felt unreal. No one could deal more than a single point of damage to him. Li Yunchen just stood there in silence, while everyone started asking what was happening. Even his allies couldn't believe his defense was that high. The enemy leader wondered if this was the power gap created by divine beasts. MC Chen had enough, and said it was time they paid for invading his server. With one wide slash, he wiped out the leader's guild. In an instant, almost all of them were down, and the survivors had no idea what to do. But Li Yunchen kept moving, cutting through them as he passed. He warned them they wouldn't even have time to come up with a plan. Now the girls were cheering, saying he'd saved the server again. He told everyone to gather all the dropped gear into one pile. They were confused and asked why, since they'd lost items of their own. Li Yunchen said they were going to use it as bait and get real revenge. The others agreed to help, and he thanked them. Meanwhile, his sister was still lying there, too weak to answer. Then he showed up and cut down everyone around her. She recognized him as the same guy from before, only now he was even stronger. Li Yunchen told her to keep everything those players dropped as payback for what she lost. She asked if he was really her brother's friend, and he said yes, she could thank him later. After that, he headed back to the dungeon entrance. When he arrived, the group had already piled up all the dropped gear. He drew his sword, then told them to spread the word to every server, even the foreign ones, that a mountain of loot was waiting here. Most people thought that had to be an exaggeration, but there really were enough items to gear up a whole server. Lin Ji said it was a perfect way to test them. Then she started a live stream, showed the loot pile, and invited everyone to come take it if they could. People watching recognized the sword right away. Not long after, players finally started arriving. Ling Ji turned to the protagonist and asked what he planned to do now. He told everyone else to grab what they could and leave. just to stay safe. Then he stepped forward and said he was going to crush the bastards who had messed with his server. The enemy rushed him, but this time, he was using everything he had. He tore through them with ease. Watching from above, the Korean server leader realized they had no chance. Lee Yun-chen wanted to know why they had come just to ruin the double EXP event. The man answered that he was only acting arrogant because he had divine beast stats. That wasn't the real reason for his strength, but the protagonist figured it was a useful rumor to let spread. They said it didn't matter how many he killed. Their server would still come out ahead because this event here was already ruined. Lee Yun-chen told them to repay his entire server, or he'd make them suffer for it. They mocked him, saying he was stupid if he thought they'd ever apologize. MC Chen answered that in 5 days they definitely would. Then he killed them and said they'd understand soon enough. As players came back, loot started dropping everywhere and the girls were amazed. But Chen said this still wasn't over. He had more to do. Back home, he decided that tomorrow he'd settle things with them for good. 10 hours passed. Now he had entered their server to get revenge. He knew the Lost Garden of Eden event existed there, and that the timing was right. So he found the same pillar on their server. The moment he activated it, everyone got a notice about the invasion. It was the exact same event that hit his own server. If all 8 pillars were destroyed, the whole server would be dragged into it. Nobody knew Lu had triggered it, and everyone was excited to get a divine beast. But the protagonist planned to guard the pillar and stop anyone from clearing it. Since no one knew how to start the Lost Garden mission, players ran around in confusion. After searching for a while, they finally found some wolves. Their leader told everyone to start streaming, so the whole world could watch them claim a divine beast. Back on Lu's server, the girls worried those players would become even stronger. The others were already talking big, saying they'd come back for revenge soon. Then one of them noticed someone standing in front of the pillar. That was MC. He told them if they wanted in, they had to get through him first. Everyone recognized him as anonymous, and demanded to know why he was there. Their leader told them not to panic, saying the fog would eat away at Li Yu's gear, so they rushed him, sure he had no chance. What they didn't know was that the thicker the mist got, the stronger he became. People couldn't figure out why his damage had suddenly doubled. The leader kept yelling for no one to fall back, but the players were getting crushed. Even the girls watching were amazed, calling the boss super cool. An hour later, he was still holding the line alone and dropping everyone who came near. At that point, the leader brought someone over like he wanted to make a deal. Lo shut it down. He said the time wasn't right yet. The man didn't get it, but the protagonist repeated that talks could wait. So he backed off and said he'd return. MC left his dragon behind and told it to warn him if anything changed. Things only got worse for that server. Monsters had already overrun half of it, and the fog kept spreading. Even the main city was covered, so nobody could farm properly. Then members of the official guild came over and asked him to stop, but Lu gave them the same answer. The time still hadn't come. Their leader told him to quit dragging it out and just end it. He fired back that they felt no shame when they teamed up to slaughter players in his region. The president of their biggest guild asked what he wanted, and the protagonist told him to get lost. With no better plan, they decided to gather a force and try to bring him down. Then Ling went live with the leaders of that server. On stream, they apologized and promised they would never pull something like that again. They also handed over the list of items Leo demanded. By then, everyone at the meeting looked worn out and had no clue how to stop this mess. In the end, their leader went to apologize in person. Li Yu warned that the only apology he'd accept was all 4 divine beasts from that place. The man tried to bargain, but MC refused. There would be no negotiation. Then he called over his own servers group. He was going to help them claim the divine beasts himself. Once everything was collected, that server celebrated because he was finally leaving. Back home, he got up completely drained after playing non-stop for 2 straight days. His left leg was almost fully healed, but the right one still needed a few more levels. So the answer was simple: go back into the game and keep farming. With all the points he earned from the dungeon and those fights, he chose the most important upgrade first. He upgraded the Legion's order, letting him control more creatures. Now he could summon 1 extra unit, and all the others got 25% stronger too. He used the cheap gear from the other server to outfit his whole team. After clearing 9 dungeons, he figured it was the right time to sell the rare gear people were starting to want. He had more than 42 swords, so he chose to auction them since that made the most money. Using the guild's name, he sent out a big notice about the sale. People immediately asked if he'd also sell the twin sword he always used. That night, he kicked off another auction. Like always, the bids kept climbing. 1 super rare cape he got sold for 81,000, and another set with a cloak went for 100,000. Then he used the hype to put up the sword he'd been using. Everyone knew the price would be crazy, and just seconds later, it sold for 210,000. Much later, he finally sold everything. Between the loot from that server and all the dungeon farming, Li Yu made $2 million. Best of all, his leg was finally healed. Now he wanted to buy his sister a new house and show her how much he'd recovered. He even found it funny that she was still working every day while he was about to buy her a home. At a real estate office, one girl was trying to sell houses while an older man complained they cost too much. Another saleswoman mocked her, saying she always relied on her looks and still couldn't make a sale. Then Li Yu showed up while she was looking down. The others looked him over, decided he seemed broke, and you can guess what came next. She walked up and asked what kind of place he wanted. The protagonist immediately said he wanted a villa. Then he realized she was his old classmate Xiao Bei. She offered to show him the housing plans, but he said he wanted to see the real places. She asked if his car was outside, and he told her he didn't own one. The other women burst out laughing, wondering how someone without even a car could be shopping for a villa. But Xiao Bei said he could ride with her on the motorcycle. On the way, he told her he was Li Yu. She said she'd heard he was stuck in a wheelchair, and he replied that he was doing much better now. Later, she thanked him for buying the house and asked if he played any games. He said he played Empyrean, and maybe they'd run into each other there. That house deal was so fast that he was already back in the game farming again. After reaching the new region, he started grinding by killing 1,000 banshees. From a distance, he spotted a massive gate that looked like it led to another map. A girl's soul stood in front of it, saying she was miserable and needed help. Li Yu asked what the challenge was, and she explained only one person could enter. To clear it, he had to defeat 500 souls beyond the gate. The reward was the ancient heart from that earlier mission. Since it was a solo quest, it suited him perfectly. The moment he went in, he found several level 22 spirits waiting inside. For anyone else, that would have been a real problem. The hard part was their numbers, and his attacks relied on human skills that hit hard but weren't ideal here. Even taking down the first two wasn't easy. Still, Li Yu stayed patient. If he could kill 2, he could kill 500. So he waited for the souls to respawn, and the second they came back, he jumped right back into the fight. 10 hours later, he finally cleared the mission. He got the ancient heart, and instantly tried to use it, but the system told him he had to remove his human skin first. So he changed back into a wolf, which scared the girl even more, but he ignored that and activated the item. His character rose to 5-star quality, giving him 500% more in every stat. Now excited, he started wondering if this area had even more quests. He told the girl to stop crying, and quickly explain what else had to be done there. She refused at first because she said he was too ugly. After turning human again, he got the answer. He had to kill 3,000 resurrected spirits. Since he was only taking them down 2 at a time, he knew it would take forever, but he still accepted because he didn't really have a choice. After all, these quests were giving him the ancient items he needed. Once he had killed over 1,000 leeches, he unlocked their talent, lowering nearby enemies' defense by 15. After that, he pushed even harder. The talent also let him attack from a distance, making him much more efficient. Even so, it still took him 3 full days to finish. He was a little let down that the place hadn't dropped a single piece of gear. He was only gaining levels. Then he spotted a structure nearby, and wondered why so many monsters were gathered there. Among the stones stood a whole legion of soldiers. A bunch of banshees had gathered around a purple orb, and it looked like they were in the middle of some ritual. Leading them was a level 27 boss called the Vanguard Leader. At that moment, Li Yu worried the game might force him to fight it. The creature called on the god of the undead, and asked for the sacrifice to be accepted. Then it slammed its sword into the ground. Everyone there started glowing with energy. Right after that, the boss and all the creatures began to vanish. Li Yu decided not to mess with any of that, and went back to the girl to say the mission was done. His werewolf bloodline evolved again, and he also gained the tiger talent, which now let him deal critical hits. He asked if she needed more help, but she said she'd already asked too much. MC eagerly told her it was fine, she just had to ask. Running into danger was basically his favorite hobby. The next quest was to stop the summoning that was happening. To do that, he had to steal 5,000 mana from the active formation. His reward would be 10 pills, each boosting his mana by 10,000. Since mana was exactly what he needed, he went right away. When he reached the formation, he saw the dark boss still hadn't been summoned, so he moved to the center and started cultivating, which let him drain the mana. The problem was that the boss had only wandered off for a bit, and now it was coming back. Li Yu could only pray the boss wouldn't notice him quietly stealing mana there. But as the boss came closer, its sword started glowing. It sensed something was wrong and began looking around. By then, he had already stolen a good amount of mana and gotten away with it. After that, he returned to the girl and asked for one more mission. This time, she told him to kill the boss, Cannabis. That was too much even for him, so he told her to find someone else. Then she explained that after he drained the mana, the monster was only 1/10 of its normal power. If he beat the boss at Ragnarok's portal, it would unlock a dungeon tied to a major quest. Li Yu remembered his own mission, mentioned Ragnarok too, so he accepted. The prize was a unique purple pet called Shiomen. Since it was one of a kind on the server, he figured it had to be worth a lot. The girl seemed ready to help in the fight, so he asked what skills she had. Before she could answer, she suddenly flew away. With no better option, he followed her. At the center was a red energy sphere. He asked if it powered the formation, and she warned him not to touch it. When he asked why, she explained that one touch would kill him on the spot. So Li Yunqing said the only thing that mattered now was taking down Cannabis. The night boss was resting there. The protagonist told her to distract it while he attacked, but she warned that a single hit would wipe her out. That made him ask why she was even there. She reminded him the boss was already 10 times weaker, and she was even weaker than that. Li Yu got it and said he'd do it, mostly because the reward looked good. Then he rushed the monster. He fired off a string of attacks, each hitting for 1,600 damage. With 30,000 GP, this fight was still going to take a while. Then the boss suddenly rose up. The girl warned him to watch out, The boss was about to use a counter skill. Liu got excited, thinking that if the boss had that move, maybe he could learn it too. He charged in, trying to end it fast, but the boss released the slash it had prepared. MC barely dodged. If that hit had landed, it would have emptied his whole health bar. While the boss recovered, he slipped in more damage. At the same time, the girl kept calling out the boss's next moves. He was surprised by how well she knew its fighting style. Then the boss lifted its sword for a finishing move. She told him the only choice was to run. They had to make it to the valley entrance or die there. The blast tore across the whole area, and Liu admitted she had been right again. It was hard to imagine how normal players were supposed to beat this thing. 8 minutes went by. He was still dodging, and still hadn't finished the boss. Then the little girl spread her arms and gave off a golden light. Liu gathered all the energy he had left for one final hit, bringing his blade down with Tiger's Strike. That finally dropped the boss. Cannabis was dead. Liu got a mystical technique called Rain Sword Conversion, and also the key to the Gate of the Dead. The little girl appeared, and thanked him for everything. Then she asked if she could stay with him. He agreed without a problem, and received the unique purple pet, Xiaoman. He hadn't expected the pet to be her, so he checked her stats. Her biggest perk was invincibility, because she was a spirit. Nobody could hurt her. She could also possess certain bodies and give buffs. When he asked about the key, she said it opened a nearby level 50 dungeon. Liu pointed out that a level 50 dungeon was way beyond him right now, so he asked what the fragment was for instead. She said dungeon fragments can be combined into other essences. A little later, he was back at his so-called home. His bag was packed with loot, and he had reached level 19. Meanwhile in the city, Ling was fighting the former rank 1 player. She dodged his strike and punched him in the face. The crowd was shocked by how much stronger she'd gotten. He admitted she wasn't bad, but said he was done playing around. Then he hit her square in the chest. He kept going with a combo, trying to finish her off. Liu went down and he mocked her with a fake apology, calling her trash. He even said the match proved her whole guild was weak. Liu shot back that he could insult her if he wanted, but why drag her guild into it? He answered that he was his guild's leader, and she led hers. She said she'd never stain her guild's name and would leave if needed. The others didn't believe her, and told her to do it. Then, she apologized to her friends, saying she didn't want everyone embarrassed because of her. Then someone stepped in and asked who gave her permission to leave. Of course, Liu wasn't about to let a pretty girl quit the guild. Everyone was stunned. They hadn't seen him in a while. He asked if they were bullying her, and Ling apologized for shaming everyone. He told her it was his fault, so he would handle it himself. The former number 1 declared that today they'd crush Liu, or leave the server. He pointed out that things had changed a lot in 10 days, and everyone had grown stronger. The protagonist answered that if he lost, he'd leave too, then asked where they wanted to fight. Now everyone wanted to see who would really be the one to quit the server. Both guilds gathered outside the city. People noticed right away that MC's guild had far fewer members. The enemy leader spread his arms and said anyone scared could run now. But Liu fired everyone up, saying they wouldn't back down. A friend told Liu they'd do their best, but he just told them not to worry. He was going to make sure nobody messed with his guild again. People couldn't believe he was walking in alone against all of them. Annoyed by his attitude, they rushed him together. What they didn't know was that Liu had gotten way stronger after the spirit quest. Even the people watching from afar weren't sure if he could actually pull this off. Their leader said he would vanish from the server today, but he calmly said that wasn't happening. Then he unleashed a double sword slash. It was an area attack, and everyone it touched took over 1,000 damage. The enemy leader was stunned. He'd never seen anyone hit that hard across a whole group. Liu didn't stop there and started wiping out the entire guild. Before their leader could react, his guild was already on the ground, and a second later he was down too. Nobody knew the protagonist had such a brutal area skill, and he showed no mercy, striking the bodies again to make sure they were finished. The only thing he found strange was that his own guild wasn't cheering. In truth, they were too stunned, wondering if this was even real or if he was hacking. One thing was clear now, nobody would want trouble with their guild again. Still, Liu wanted to make that message even louder, so he headed back to the tower where he'd stopped at floor 5 before. This time, he tore through the early floors with ease. He planned to go much farther, so he wouldn't need to come back soon. The first floors were cleared in under 10 seconds each. Liu said he reached the 5th floor in less than 13 seconds. People only cared about one thing now. Could he really pass floor 15? But Liu was willing to bet on him. On floor 12, it was the first time the enemies survived a single hit. Not long after that, he reached floor 15. One of the girls said people were starting to think he was cheating, but the love-struck one insisted that wasn't true. He was just that gifted. A second later, he hit floor 16, and they cheered, saying no one would dare target their guild now. But then people started asking when he would finally stop, because he was already on floor 17. And right after that, he reached floor 19. He made it to floor 20 and beat another enemy without much trouble. Still, he decided to act like it had been hard and left the tower. Everyone was impressed, thinking floor 20 must have had something terrifying on it. After that, he went to do the guild challenge. It was the only way to get ascension crystals, and he knew nobody else could clear up to level 7 yet. By now, people were starting to give up on ever catching him. Later, Ling thanked him. He told them not to worry. He was their leader, so he'd help everyone. He'd keep only the spirits and hand out the rest. Ling wanted to know why he was helping so many people like that. He told her not to think about it, and to focus on raising her magic. Then he asked her to send a friend request, and said if anyone bothered her, she should call him. She was thrilled that her leader still remembered her. Now Liu had a new problem. His level was so high that he didn't know where to farm anymore. At the same time, players were gathering outside an underground cave. They were trying to form teams for the dungeon, but MC went in alone, hoping there was a hidden area inside. The monsters were ridiculously easy. Even the level 23 boss wasn't a real challenge. The run would only matter if he found something secret. Just like the last dungeon, clearing the opening fast enough unlocked the hidden section. Then a notice appeared. The Abyssal Zombie King was coming. 5 minutes later, the ground started cracking open, and the monster burst out from below. It was a level 30 diamond rank boss. Its first hit smashed Liu for 4,000 damage in the chest. On top of that, he was blinded for 3 seconds, lost physical defense and movement speed, and took 3% of his max health every second for 10 seconds. Now he was truly scared of the boss's power. If this kept up, he had no chance of winning. He dodged the next attack, and realized 4 hits would kill him. Still, he wasn't panicking, since the boss was fairly slow, so he kept weaving around its attacks while striking back. The real problem was its huge defense and health pool, and after taking some damage, the monster dug underground again. Liu started to wonder if this dungeon might actually kill him. Then everyone got a notice that the area was paused until someone defeated the secret boss. This fight would decide if everyone could unlock the dungeon's second level. His sister was mad. She was almost at the boss, and now she'd be forced out. Her friend told her it was fine since beating this would open the next floor. She didn't care. She just wanted to beat up the guy, ruining her leveling. Then her friend pointed out the obvious. Only one player on the server would challenge that boss alone. She wondered if it was anonymous. Somehow she still had no clue the guy helping her was her own brother. All because of that mask. Back in the fight, Liu kept smashing the ground, but the boss still took no damage. Even with the ghost's invisibility, he still couldn't track where it was. Then the boss burst out of the ground right in front of him. Luckily, he was invisible, so the creature couldn't spot him. He used that chance to get behind it and slash the back of its neck. He repeated that for 30 straight minutes until the monster finally went down. After the kill, he got a zombie mask and a bunch of dungeon loot. But one drop stood out more than the rest. It was a recruitment order tied to this dungeon. That item gave him the right to recruit a zombie king. He also got a mask that lowered other people's energy and speed, plus the key he wanted, the one that opened the dungeon's second level. The moment he used it, everyone was amazed. Now the whole server could level up much faster. When Liu came out, he was still invisible, but his sister was right there. He checked her gear, and saw she was getting pretty strong. It looked like she was finally learning the game, so he got curious about her level and damage. To test it, he gave her a tiny hit. It ended up doing huge damage, and the combo stacked poison on her too. As she tried to move away, he warned her to stay still, or the poison would hurt even more. A moment later, the poor girl dropped to